Florida versus Houston, national championship game, April 7th, starts at 8:50 p.m. Start off, why does it have to start off on a Monday at 9 o'clock Eastern?
Well, the reason it's at 9 o'clock is because they want to, they don't want people to be having to watch it on the West Coast while at work. And it's on Monday because ultimately people kind of care more about the Final Four on Saturday, but it's brutal. And I remember they made a whole fanfare of moving, because I think usually you used to start at 9:07 or 9:10 or something. Yeah. And they made a big fanfare this year. We're listening, we moved it back, and it's moving it back 20 minutes, still tips off after 8:45.
The college football national championship game, they moved up an hour. I remember that.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, because did it start at 7 this year? Because it normally starts at 8 or 8.
I'm pretty sure it started 7 something.
Gotcha.
So, get into the matchup here. So we were kind of hinting at it earlier. I have one big key to this game. Mm-hmm. So when you look at who we've been struggling against in this tournament, I go to Texas Tech, Darian Williams, JT Toppin, not as much, but Darian Williams, they were killing us in the paint. He was shooting a high percentage, making his shots. Derek Queen put up 27 on us, mostly in the paint. Janai Broom in the first half, killing us in the paint. My big thing about Houston, their 2-point percentage is 292nd in the country at 48%. Now, they have some good bigs, but they're not going to go and make that first shot on you. Very rarely do they make that first shot with their offensive post moves. So what Darian Williams did to us, I don't expect anyone in Houston to do it to us. Or what Janai Broom, Toppin, Queen, what any of those guys did to us, I doubt someone in Houston has one of those games. I also think our defense, our bigs are going to be locked in physically. They have to be, or Houston will bully us. But I think they will be locked in defensively and toughness-wise to go out there and get those stops. But with that being said, what makes Houston so good, they're 10th in the offensive rebound rate. So they may miss that first shot, but their 48% chance they're getting that second shot, their odds to make that second shot are very high. So if you can get that first stop, you have to make sure you get that defensive rebound. I think if you out-rebound Houston, they won't win.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest key in this game.
Yeah, and to me, I think the reason I like this matchup more than the Duke matchup is I think it's kind of like you said, the terms here are very clear. It's not like Duke, where literally you would have had to manufacture a way to not only slow down Cooper Flagg, who's a matchup nightmare, but Con Knippel, who's 6'7", and Florida doesn't really have a 3. Florida doesn't really have a guy. It'd be Will Richard probably, but Florida doesn't really have a guy who can match up against players like that. Versus Houston, like you said, the assignment's very simple. You know what they're going to do. They are very athletic. They're very physical. They play good defense, and they hit the 3 ball. But that's a lot of that is kind of the things that Florida does too.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it I think you're right. Juwan Roberts, really good player, plays bigger than he is at 6'8". And I think did a really good job against Cooper Flagg last night, especially in the second half. But between him and Joseph Tugler, their other big, who's also only 6'8", I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
And Javier Francis is also, I think, only 6'8". So they have a couple good players, but you gotta believe that the size that Florida has with Condon, Ruben Chinyelu, Micah, and Houck, obviously, you gotta believe that they're going to be able to at least mostly neutralize those guys. So to me, it's as simple as, will the guards be able to lock down Walt and Martin and Richard? And at the same time, will they make those shots on the other end? Because I don't think Florida's guards get enough credit for how well they play defensively. Martin probably does, but I'm not sure Clayton does. So I think to me, it's you need good offense. You need those guards to have a good offensive game. Like I said earlier, you really need Richard and Martin to get hot in this game and relieve some of the pressure off Walter Clayton. But it really comes down to rebounding. And if you don't give them those second chance points, and if you take advantage of the size advantage that you do have inside, it's hard for me to see a ton of ways where Houston wins this game unless Florida just has a game where it can't shoot. Because if Florida comes out even semi shooting the ball well, it's going to put a lot of pressure on guys like LJ Cryer.
When I look at Houston, the team they're most comparable to is Tennessee. And you look at Florida's worst game, it was that Tennessee game. Now, how much of that was Tennessee? How much of that was us just missing and playing bad? I don't know, but you look at the other 2 Tennessee games. The first one, Tennessee played bad. We played really good. But then really that SEC championship game where we controlled most of it, like Tennessee kept it within striking distance, but we controlled nearly that entire game. That's kind of how I look at it. What I really love is our defense versus their offense. Because I look at LJ Cryer, I think that's who you put Elijah Martin on. Make sure that he doesn't get those open looks from threes, that they kept getting offensive rebounds and tossing it back out to Cryer, who's played really good in this tournament. So I think you limit that. You're not going to be able to get those crazy threes. Now, he can hit some contested shots. But I do think to put Martin on him, you can stop him a bit. I think you then put Will Richard on Milos Uzan. If Cryer has the ball, doesn't have that open 3 opportunity, just tries to get rid of it to Uzan, who's probably their second best creator outside of Cryer. Maybe it's a bad pass. Richard, there's a reason he leads that team in steals. It just works well hand in hand together. And then you probably put Walt on Emmanuel Sharp. I think that's more just by default, probably their third best offensive player creating wise. He is their second leading scorer. It's also a battle of Florida boys, Sharp from Tampa, Florida. So that's something else thought was interesting. But then again, I really like the defensive matchup because I think we've been really good at running teams off the 3-point line. And Houston, they don't do a good job on that first shot inside. So just get those defensive rebounds. And I really love the opportunity for us to win this game. Guard play, Houston can hit those tough shots to keep them in the game, kind of like how Tennessee did in that SEC championship game. But I don't really see them create. I don't think they can create either. They don't have a true point guard. Yeah. LJ Cryer, he's really good, more of a 3-point specialist, shoots 42% from 3. But if you just guard him from 3, let your bigs do what they do, which isn't going to be easy, but they definitely have as much of an opportunity as anybody. I think a big key in this game could be Micah Handlon. I think Micah Handlon is the best rebounder on this team. I think Micah might be the best rebounder in the country. I mean, he has that 7'2" size. He's really good at finding the ball and keeping control of it. Something that Chinyelu with that 7'6" wingspan, sometimes he just loses it and it slips through. You never see that with Micah. You never see that with Micah. I think that's something that could be very valuable. They're not really going to be able to back you down because that's not who they are. So, I mean, I just don't see how Houston scores really well in this game unless we just play bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where, like, when you look at this Houston team,
he got 0. Unless they change the statistics, like, he had 0 in that game. Rob, Duke 7'2" center, only got 1 rebound. I'm pretty sure, unless they changed it, he only got 0.
I'm checking right now. He had 0.
0.
Yeah, 0 rebounds, 1 block, 6 points, 4 fouls.
Yep.
Not great.
Rob, that one dude's arm are so long. Jawan Roberts with a 7'6" wingspan. I mean, 6'8" and having a 7'5" wingspan.
I mean, he shut down Cooper Flagg. Like, that's what he did. In the second half, at least. And
one thing I really like, so going offensively, you were about to talk, weren't you? Oh, sorry, I'll let you talk.
I mean, I was just going to say, like, I think you kind of nailed it with Houston. Like, they are a team of really good athletes. They play hard, they play tight, they play aggressive, and they can hit the threes to keep them in games. But if you're not letting them get the second chance points, which I think, you know, and you know, we'll talk about Condon. Like, Condon needs to play better on the offensive end, but I think even with the way he's playing on the defensive end, I think can be helpful in this game. And like, you just got to imagine that Florida's not going to get bullied on the boards by a team that's this much smaller than they are. And then if you can do that and you can force them off the 3-point line and not just give them easy gimme looks, like, I don't want to say that Florida could like win this game easily, but it does feel like a game that Florida has the potential, if Houston comes out a little cold, to like grab control early and just never really relinquish it.
Yep. Now, Houston, they only give up 30.3. Wow. So both of these teams are top 17 in 3-point defense. Houston giving up 30.3, us giving up 29.5. We're both going to try to run each other off the 3-point line.
Yeah.
And where I think Florida does have a better advantage there offensively is the fact that you can have Ruben Chinyelu or Alex Condon win in the post. I think Condon more than Chinyelu because we've seen it more often, but he's lately it hasn't been as well for him, but we know he can get good enough. He has some good footwork, get those post hook shots. Chinyelu, the higher wingspan, he can as well. If you can get one of those two guys going in the post where they just can't stop him, that's going to open up the 3-point line. And that's where Florida can win this game. I also think Martin's physicality, Richards as well. These three guards, even if you run them off the 3-point line, they are really good at getting to the rim and making their layups. I mean, Martin, especially the physicality he brings. I mean, Walter Clayton was hitting some ridiculous layups against Auburn. Yeah. I mean, everyone's going to talk about his 5 threes, but he hit like 4 layups in that game that were pretty tough layups.
Yeah, and I'll just say, like, I don't want to take us off on a tangent too much here, but I think that is such an underrated element of his game. And like I think when people compare him to Steph Curry, I'm not saying he's as good as Steph Curry, but I think when they do compare him to Steph Curry, they're a little more accurate than they even realize they are. Because to me, like, that's also the part of Steph's game he doesn't get enough credit for.
Yep.
Is how good he is at cutting to the basket, finding the space, and hitting an easy layup. Like, Wallet can do that a lot. And like, so yeah, I agree. Between the guard's ability to score inside, I mean, we know Elijah Martin can finish inside. He's proven that, even if he jumps way too early, and it scares me, and I wish he didn't do it as much as he does, even though it looks cool when it works. But no, I was screaming at my TV when he leapt to dunk that ball on the transition, when he tried to dunk from the free throw line and pulled it off. No, but like, I think I think Houston needs to be on their game way more. Like, I think Florida can have a couple things go wrong and still be all right in this game. Whereas I think if any of Houston's like key pillars go wrong, they're in big trouble.
One big advantage Houston does have, they are 5th in block rate. So if we go to the lane and we're, lazy with it, just laying it up softly, we can't be soft inside.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that does scare me a bit with Condon. Like, he can be physical.
Yeah.
But there are times where, like, we saw a Broom get like 2 blocks on Condon on soft lays, on hooks. Like, you can't do that.
And that's really all I was going to add, is like that is kind of where I was going. Like, you just have to play like Florida has to go hard in the paint in this game. Like, you have to be aggressive going to get those boards. You cannot let I'm blanking on his name. Juwan Roberts, you cannot let him go up and beat you using that wingspan when you've got 7'2" Micah, when you've got 6'11" Chin. Like, you can't let that happen. And you've got to finish hard. But like, if you do those things and Houston's not shooting 50% from 3, like, they're going to have trouble keeping up. Because I think Florida can score when the 3 is being taken away. I'm not sure this Houston team can.
Yep. That's 100%. Something else to look at, Houston is 312th in percentage of points from the free throw line. So that's something we don't really have to worry about us fouling, because they don't really draw fouls. Because again, it's just free throws, rebounds, 3-pointers, rebounds, put it up or throw it back out for a 3. I don't really worry about getting in foul trouble, but one good thing about us having 3 centers, 3 guys that can play center, is the fact that we can get in foul trouble with one of those guys. They were talking about in the field of 68 earlier that Todd Golden probably tells his bigs, hey, one of you guys can be more aggressive and foul more often if you need to. Because we still have 2 other guys out there, and that's not even including Thomas Houck.
And for how big and physical Florida is inside, they really have done a good job avoiding foul trouble this year. Yep. I mean, they were in foul trouble yesterday, but that was kind of due to extenuating circumstances with the people blowing the whistle. That was pretty atypical to see all of Florida's bigs have 3 or more fouls, with Condon fouling. I mean, when was the last time Florida had a guy foul out?
I think Chinyelu fouled out in the game in the SEC tournament.
Did he? Okay, I don't really remember that.
I remember him fouling out, and it was like some pretty weak fouls too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it takes a pretty a pretty generous whistle for Florida to get into foul trouble. I think they do a pretty good job of playing disciplined in that regard. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's an advantage. I mean, I think Florida's, aside from yesterday, really down the stretch, Florida's done a good job with hitting their free throws. Was it the Bama game? Okay.
Which Bama's really good at getting to the line.
Yeah. No, Rob, I meant that was my point. Was like that was so rare. Like, and that only happened because, like, let's just be real, that was an incredibly one-sided game officiating wise. But that doesn't happen very often that Florida has all their bigs get in foul trouble like that.
I mean, I thought
Wait, is he saying did Condon foul out against Texas Tech? That's not what he's saying, right? Okay, I was just making sure I didn't misread that. I was like, I don't think he did.
Let me double check. I don't think he did.
mean, I'm like almost positive he didn't, but I could be misremembering.
No. Okay, no, he only had 2 fouls. Never mind. Okay. Man, do you have anything else? I thought this would be a longer breakdown because it's a national championship, but like, I feel like it's pretty simple.
Well, I feel like we would have had more to say in that regard if it were Duke, because like, I mean, again, I was just sitting there literally. I mean, I don't even know. I'm not like a basketball X's and O's genius or anything, but I was just sitting there watching that game being like, what is Florida going to do against these guys? Well, watching Houston, like, I think it's pretty clear what Florida's going to do. Yep. I mean, and maybe it won't work. And I think the way Houston,
the big struggle,
100%.
We have seen the big struggle.
And I think the one thing I will say about Houston is I don't think Houston's built to challenge Florida the way that Texas Tech or Auburn or UConn did. Yep. I think they are like kind of like what you said with the Tennessee comparison. I think they are kind of built to give Florida the kind of game it had a couple times during the regular season where nothing went right. Because like what happens when Florida is, what are the kind of the recurring themes when Florida finds itself in those situations? Usually it's because they're getting out rebounded and the shots are not falling from the outside. Yep. And I think Houston is built to maybe do both of those things against you. But I think if Florida plays discipline, avoids giving them just easy looks from three. I mean, they have 3 guys that shoot 40% from 3 in the backcourt. Like they're going to hit some shots, but yep. If you make those shots be the kind of shots that Chad Baker-Mazara was taking and hitting and not just give them wide open looks, like, I mean, if you lose a game because LJ Cryer just goes Walter Clayton mode, like good game that, you deserve the national championship. But I think in most games between these two teams, I don't think Houston's really built to do that.
Yeah. A couple things before we make our picks here. Walter Clayton Jr. now holds the scoring record in a single season for a Florida Gator basketball player. 702 points. But then when you look at, he also holds now the record with 1 game left in a scoring record in the NCAA tournament in a Florida Gator history. He has 123. Joakim Noah held the record at 97. And Walt has 1 more game. I'm expecting Walt to probably put up at least 20. Walt could get up to 150 points maybe, which would be a 53 difference in second place.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is a hot take. I mean, I'll be honest, I was pretty young for the back-to-back titles. I wasn't really watching those teams too closely, but like to me, I think it's pretty easy to say Walt's the greatest Gator of all time, greatest Gator basketball player of all time. I think that was probably the case before the tournament. I think this tournament run has certainly solidified that.
I think you guys are a little too optimistic. You have had some stretches against Auburn in the half court where we look terrible. So offensively, I assume he's talking about in the half court. Mm-hmm. That's where we talking about our game plan. It could struggle if our bigs don't hit their shot or if our bigs can't score inside like Condon and Chinilu. But we have Roberts does have that huge wingspan. Tugler not as much. But I mean, even if you just find one of those matchups that works out, I mean, even if Hauk at 6'9" has to come in and make some plays, I mean, he has some tough layups. Like, you got to think that one of these bigs are going to be able to score inside, which will open up the paint, or which will open up the 3-point line and open up some gaps for the guards to penetrate inside.
Yeah, like I think to me, it's like there's a game state where Florida clearly loses this game, but I think that requires Florida not execute. Like, to me, I think Florida executed pretty well in the Auburn game. I think they were just playing a really good team, a team that's hard to match up against.
Houston doesn't have a Janai Broom.
No, they don't. And not only do they not have a Janai Broom, like I mean, as good as their backcourt is, I think Auburn's might be harder for Florida to match up. I mean, Florida's guards are bigger than Houston's. Like Florida's guards are more physical than Houston's. So I just, to me, it's like, unless Florida comes out and the shots aren't fall, because like, again, I think you'll be able, like, I don't think you'll see, even though I don't think Condon's playing very well right now. And I'm not like expecting that to change in this game. I don't think you'll see him score 1 point either, because Houston doesn't have Dylan Cardwell and Janai Broom playing down low. I mean,
Yep.
those guys are huge. They're 6'10" and 6'11", and they're really physical. And, as talented as Houston's bigs are and as athletic as they are, like Florida's going to have, Florida has the size advantage across the board here. They have the, I think, versatility advantage on offense. So I think it really just comes down to, can Florida execute the game plan? I don't think Houston's going to just take control of a game where Florida's doing what it needs to do.
Florida is 78th in average height. Houston is 243rd. Can you guess who the second tallest team in college basketball is? This is shocking to me.
Because Duke is number 1, right?
Yeah, Duke's number 1.
Is it like
6'4" or 6'5"?
To be honest,
because he was 7. Okay, no, it's because the team has a 7'4" player, and it's Elon.
Okay.
Matthew Von Komen. He's 7'4", and then they have they have another 6'11" guy, 6'5", 6'4", so that's why. But that's interesting. But I really like the matchup. Rob about Walter, he has to win the championship. I think if he wins it, it's undisputed. If he doesn't, then it can be then it's a question. But it's like if you have a coach and they take you to 10 straight Final Fours, but they can't win the championship. Like let's say Villanova and Kevin Willier takes Villanova to 10 straight Final Fours, but they don't win a championship versus Jay Wright, who won 2 or 3 natties.
2, I think.
I would still say Jay Williams is better, even though Kevin Willier had 10 years of dominance, just couldn't win it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe this is an even hotter take that's going to make Rob mad. To me, and I know this kind of sounds like loser talk, and I'm not trying to bring that to the table on the eve of the natty, but to me, no matter what happens tomorrow night, in my opinion, this is the best Florida team that's ever been fielded. I don't think you can even compare, even with the back-to-back national championships, the SEC that this team won the tournament of and finished one game away from winning the regular season of is at a level that the SEC has never been at before, certainly not in the mid-2000s. This tournament, to get even to the national championship in a tournament with the best group of 1 seeds of all time, really probably the deepest top 4 seeds that I've ever seen. Just to me, there's nothing comparable. So, obviously, to be remembered as that, they're going to need to win it, but it's not going to change my opinion of this being the most talented team that Florida's ever, or maybe not that. Maybe that's not the best way to say it since they don't have any of the top 100 guys, but this is the best college basketball team that has ever played at Florida. I think certainly better than the 2014 team that lost in the Final Four by a pretty wide margin. And I think you could make a pretty strong argument, even more so than the national title teams.
If we win, Todd Golden will be the youngest coach to win a national championship since Bob Knight.
Wow.
35 years old in Indiana.
What year was that he won that? Do you have that? Do you have that in front of you?
Let's see. We just included 2 more championships. Let's see. It doesn't say the year. 1976. He'll be the youngest coach to win it since 1976.
Wow.
I see a lot of people, they're talking about John Shire, and it's they can make the excuse he's young, which, he made a Final Four. He's made an Elite 8. John Shire's on an amazing trajectory. He has a number 1 class coming in again with 4 or 5 stars. But Todd Golden's doing it at 39 with a lot less resources, a lot less talent, but it's not like Todd Golden has a ton of coaching experience either, because John Shire's only in his 3rd year as a head coach. Todd Golden's in his 5th. I think he had 2 years at San Fran.
I think he had 3 at San. I want to say he had 3 at San Fran.
Todd Golden.
He didn't really do anything because his first year was decent, and then I think they took a step back and then took a big step forward in year 3. I think.
Head coach San Fran 19 to 22. Yeah. So 6 years as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only been an assistant at 2 other schools. Not including San Fran, because San Fran promoted him from within. Mm-hmm. So Columbia and Auburn.
That's also interesting about him being the youngest coach, because I hadn't really thought of. These are 2 really interesting coaching storylines in these 2 Final Four games. Obviously the Pearl Golden connection speaks for itself. I think they talked about that ad nauseum on the broadcast yesterday, but then I think Golden trying to become the youngest coach to win it versus Kelvin Sampson, an older guy who's
would be the oldest.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. The oldest
Jim
to win
Calhoun,
it for the first time.
Yep, Jim Calhoun is 68. Sampson, I believe, is 69.
And I mean, a guy that's been around forever. Like, I mean,
yep.
Success, seen a lot of schools. This is, I think, his third career Final Four. Hasn't been able to get over the hump yet. I mean, really fascinating contrast there between. I mean, obviously, Florida Duke would have been the like more interesting game from like a CBS trying to sell it perspective. But I think this game is, when you look at it being, I mean, this is kind of like the ultimate college basketball lifetime achievement award national championship. With all these teams with the veteran players. I mean, LJ Cryer was on the Baylor team, wasn't he?
He was played for the
national championship. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Started.
He was a freshman.
That was his first year. Okay. Yeah. Played 20 games coming off the bench. Yeah. So, I mean, guy's been around college basketball for a long time. These are two teams full of guys that have probably played thousands of combined college basketball games. So, yeah, really interesting storyline here.
All right. We were able to extend this. Let's make our picks. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first here. I mean, I don't think I need to like reiterate my reasoning a ton. Yep. I think we're both kind of on the same page here. Yeah. And I think we've made it pretty clear how we feel about this matchup. I think there's a lot of ways, or maybe not a lot of ways, but I think there's a pretty easy way to see that Florida loses this game. I think it's going to be really tough. I just think that the sum of the advantages clearly favors Florida here. I think the matchups clearly favor Florida. I think it's going to be a battle, but I think Florida does win. I think they score a little bit fewer points than maybe they're used to scoring.
Yep.
But I'll say they win, 75-70, something like that.
Another game I was looking back at, a defensive team, Wake Forest. We played earlier in the year. This was before we were even humming. We were able to score 75 on them. Houston's obviously better defensively than Wake Forest is, better offensively as well. But I'm kind of using that a little bit. The number I had in my mind, 74-62.
Ooh.
Okay, oh, wait, no. 72. Sorry, 72-64.
Okay, so you're still you're still fairly confident. Like, you think this is a kind of not. Do you see that playing? I mean, this isn't the assignment, but do you see that playing out like Florida pulls away late, or do you see that as like Florida just nurses an 8-point lead for most of the game?
I see us taking the lead early and holding it like the Tennessee game was, with Houston hitting some shots. Because I think what will happen is I'm thinking one of Condon or Chinyelu is going to get going early on, and Houston's going, and we're going to get to like a 5 to 10 point lead. So Houston's going to work to stop him a bit more, which gives us more open threes. We score more, less efficiently, but we hit more threes, which is good points.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see the game.
Yeah. Going. No, I mean, I think that's totally fair. I mean, I could see Florida winning this game by 10 or 15. Honestly, I think
I could as well.
I think if things go if Florida gets its best case scenario in this game, I think that could happen pretty easily. I'm giving Houston the benefit of the doubt because I think they're another group of veterans that's well coached, and I think they're going to come out and execute pretty well in this game. I don't think they're going to be able to sustain it in a way that wins this game. Again, to me, the only real way I see Florida being doomed in this game is if they just come out and shoot 28%, honestly. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, have kind of one of those games.
Worst case scenario, if your bigs can't stop Jawan Roberts inside, just put Ruin with his 8-foot wingspan.
Yeah, burn the red shirt. Do it, Todd. You won't do it.
It's the national championship game. You got to throw everything you got at him. What is Micah Handlon's wingspan? He's 60. I mean, 7'2". Yeah, Micah Handlon wingspan.
It's got to be pretty big, even relative to 7'2" for how good.
7'4". 7'4", which I think helps him actually rebound because his arms are more in control. Because compared to the size of his body.
Would you say Roberts was like 7'5" wingspan at 6'8"? That's unreal. Yeah. That's insane, man.
That's what I heard. Let me double check that. Jawan Roberts wingspan. Okay, why can I not find
Also, I just want to address Rob's comment. Yeah, Rob, like I'm glad it didn't come to this. I'm not sure I come on this show and pick Florida if Duke wins that game last night, to be perfectly honest with you.
I mean, that's fair.
I probably would be. And I have like when I did my bracket, I actually had this game. Like in my bracket, I have Florida Houston in the national title. But
I think Duke looked so much better than we expected. Until they faced Houston.
Oh, I had Duke losing in the Elite Eight to Alabama, and I hated that pick. I hated that I picked that going into that game. I had zero confidence I was going to get that right, and I didn't. But yeah, I would not. I mean, like I said, I really did not like the matchup against Duke. Like I would have very much gone into that game like, yeah, let's see what happens. Let's throw the kitchen sink at flag and hope we win. This game, I'm like. I clearly can see a way that Florida struggles, but I think you'd be hard pressed to not say Florida has the matchup advantage in this game.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know why. That's why I was told he is a 7.5, but I can't find it anywhere. But I'm gonna trust who told me that it was 7.5, but maybe that's wrong.
I hope it's wrong. I hope it's like 7.3 instead. That'd make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean 7.3 is still.
I'm still crazy at 6'8", but
6'8". Something else I found very interesting. Manute Bol has the longest wingspan in NBA history at 8'6", and the second largest is Taco Fall at 7'6".
He's a foot longer than number 2. I just can't even. I'm 5'10". Like I truly just can't even imagine what it would be like to have an 8-foot wingspan. Like that would just be so crazy. An 8.5 foot wingspan.
I mean, what? So he was 7'7", 7'6" Manute Bol was, and oh my god. Florida can't turn the ball over. I feel like a lot of our turnovers versus Auburn, like Houck dropped the ball. I feel like we had like 4 of those in this game.
Yeah, we had a lot of turnovers due to bad handles, which I don't feel like that's been an issue for us this year.
Go Gators from Bucking. Hey, just so you know, analytics doesn't guarantee you a win. No. I mean,
I don't think either of us said it does.
I mean,
also say I'm not sure Lane is like. I mean, I'm sure Lane listens to analytics in terms of like aggressiveness, but I don't think Lane is like analytics central with how he calls his games.
Right.